Hi, I'm Wendy from ShinyHappyWorld.com, and today I'm going to show you the invisible way to sew up an opening that you left for stuffing. I already showed you the easy way, that's using a whip stitch, and I've got an example of that right here. This is the one I showed you. So it's neat, it's tidy, but it is definitely visible, especially because I used a dark colored thread. But that was the whip stitch way. I'm going to show you on this bear. This is where I stitched this opening closed. I did not use a whip stitch here. You cannot see where I sewed that. I used a ladder stitch here, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So just like when we did the whip stitch, you're going to come in from the inside of whatever you're sewing closed, and you're going to come out to the outside. Now, also, just like the whip stitch, you'll see I've got these edges, they're folded and pressed so that if they were right together, it's a nice smooth, and it gives me a nice line to follow. That fold is going to be important for this. And also, just like the whip stitch, I'm going to pinch that opening closed. So I'm working on just a little bit at a time. And what you do this time, you go into the top fold there, and you're going to come out just a little ways away on the same side. So right now I'm going just through the bottom lip. Remember when we did the whip stitch, we talked about how this looks like a little mouth? You've got a top lip and a bottom lip. So I went just through the bottom lip there. And now I'm going to jump across the opening, and I'm going to go into the top lip, right across, right next to where I came out on the bottom lip. I'm going to take a tiny little stitch, and I'm coming out the top lip. So basically I just did a stitch that went right through that fold there. Now I'm coming out the top lip. I'm going to go into the bottom lip, right across from where I came out on the top lip, and I'm going to take a tiny little stitch. And again, you would use matching thread here, but I'm using a contrasting color so you can see. And you see this, why this is called a ladder stitch. We have these little stitches that are going straight across. So I came out the bottom lip, I'm going to go into the top lip, and then come out the top lip. And I'm going to let me do one more before I show you the magic. So we go in here. I take really small stitches when I'm doing this. This is not for beginners. This is for if you really want to put in the extra work to make your stitches invisible. Now, if I pull on that, you cannot, I'm using black thread on white fabric, and you almost can't see that stitch. If you were using matching thread, you would never be able to see those marks. So I'm going to keep working my way across. So I just went through the top lip. Now I'm going to go through the bottom lip, and I'm taking bigger stitches now than I normally would, just because I'm getting impatient. I shouldn't do that. So I'm going across to the top. So basically your stitches are hidden in the fold lines that are each of those lips. And the only place that the thread is visible is where it jumps straight across to form those ladder rungs. And you don't even have to pull it tight until you get every few stitches. Just leave those little ladder rungs there. It looks very Frankensteinian while you're working on it, especially with the black thread. And then when you're ready to, just pull those stitches tight and they disappear. So I'm going to do just a few more. Poke that stuffing down in there. So you want to make sure the things to this, it's not as important to be even length stitches because you're really not going to see them, but I still shoot for that. The important thing is that you're not jumping down, you're not going diagonal at all, you're going straight across that opening so that you're always going in right opposite where you came out so that the rungs of your ladder are parallel. And just keep working your way down. It can be a little bit tricky to just catch the fold in there to get into the fold. But it just takes a little bit of practice. You're pinching it together. Again, I don't recommend this one for absolute beginners. Go back and use the whip stitch. It's neat. It's visible, but it's still neat, and I don't think it distracts from most softies. But if you're really trying to do something heirloom or anything like that, go ahead and try this. So, pulled all those stitches tight. You really can barely see them as you go, and then you are going to be able to see your knot here, because I knot it off the same way I knot off the whip stitch. Take a little tiny stitch that goes across both lips. Take your needle through both 2 times through the loop, pull it tight, and then I do one more knot. Pull it through the loop 2 times. Pull it tight. And again, you don't want to cut it off right there. Put your needle in right next to that knot, and then come out someplace else on your softie. Pull it through. And if you pull that and then snip it, it pops right back in, and the tail is completely buried in your stuffed animal. So there you go. I sewed that with black thread on white fabric, and you can barely see it even so. So that's the invisible way to sew up the openings used to stuff pillows and stuffed animals, teddy bears, anything like that. It's called the ladder stitch. I'm Wendy from shinyhappyworld.com. See you next time.